Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltari, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. We are now embarking on a wonderful series called Les Filles à Marier, the Marriageable Girls, which is a companion series to Les Filles à Marier that we started about a year and a half ago. There are many less filles à marier, about 260, I believe, in all. And so, but we will be taking each one of them and kind of getting to know them. They are truly, if the filles à marier are the filles du roi are the founding, mothers, then these are the founding grandmothers of Quebec, truly the roots of it all. Before we begin, let me show you ways you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the know: subscribe, like, and notify. I have Super Thanks, which is now part of my basket of supportive material where you can monetarily give me a super thanks. And then you can also do that on Coffee and Patreon, and I've listed the links below. And with that being said, let's get started with our next Filles Mariées. So les Filles Mariées came before les Filles du Roi, who arrived in 1663. This is 1634 to 1662. Between those years, slightly under 30 years, about 260 young women embarked on an amazing journey. They didn't come in groups. Sometimes they came with one or two other women, maybe a sister, but certainly these were the true pioneers, and they married fellow pioneers. So many of you will have Les Filles à Marier in your tree just because, your family branches are that old and are part of the true roots of what is Quebec. So let's get to know our Filles à Marier of this episode. So our Filles à Marier for this episode, her name is Marie Riton. And she was of your request, but she happens to be my great-grandmother too, and one I'm particularly proud of. I loved her story. So let's get to know Marie a little bit better. So Marie was born in 1627 in a commune called La Roche-sur-Yon, and her parents were Robert Riton and Marguerite Guyon. La Roche-sur-Yon is a commune in the Vendée department in the Pays de la Loire region. So you can see the Pays de la Loire on the upper, and the Vendée is the department within that. And you can actually see La Roche-sur-Yon, up there in the Vendée department. There are about 55,000 people who live there now. Just to give you like a translation, La Roche means rock, and Yon refers to the river Yon. Hence, the English translation is the rock on the Yon. La Roche-sur-Yon dates from the 10th century when a castle was erected and the town grew around it. The church where Marie was baptized was l'Église du Bourg. So you can see it right there on the upper right. In medieval France, La Roche-sur-Yon was an extremely royal town and was largely ruled by the various princes and princesses who came through the town and were part of it. One can imagine that the ordinary people of the village were ruled, for good or bad, by the royalty that surrounded them. Before Marie would come to New France, she did have a child out of wedlock, which is known as a natural child, an enfant naturel, with a man named Abraham Brunet in 1644. She was but 17 years old. The following year, she would actually convert to the Protestant faith. She would eventually reconvert to the Catholic faith once in New France, but only a decade after she arrived. It is believed that she arrived about 1650 in New France. Her daughter would either pass away during the voyage or before the ship sailed from France, as we do not have any trace of her child once she arrived in New France. It's kind of sad, isn't it? So the man that would eventually capture her heart is named Léonard Leblanc. He was born in 1626 in Blessac. His parents were Léonard Leblanc and Jeanne Féant. Blessac is found in the region of Nouvelle-Aquitaine, which we've come time and again. So many came from that region. This is a first found in the Département of le Creuse, which I find interesting that we've never really gone there. The church where Léonard would probably have been baptized is l'Église Saint-Martial, which dates from the 12th century. And there's a chateau dating from that time as well that many people go and visit here. So this is a very historic place as well. Very small, very, very small, but still absolutely picturesque, as you can see in the picture on the upper right. Just a small little town in France. And this is where our groom came from. So they were married, Marie and Léonard, on August 23rd, 1650. The marriage states that, or the marriage is found in the Register of Notre Dame in Quebec City, but the marriage itself took place at Beauport. And present for that marriage was the Seigneur himself, Robert Giffard, who was so instrumental in so many things. And we also have Jean Juchereau, de la Ferté, who would prove to be very, very instrumental as well. So it was an important marriage, to be sure. The family would settle in Beauport, where they had been married. In 1634, Robert Giffard, the man we mentioned in the previous slide, he received this seigneurie from the Compagnie des Sans Associés, the 100 associates who were dispersing all of these different seigneuries. So he was right there. I mean, there's a few other pioneers who were earlier, but Robert Giffard was definitely there. It was a slow start to the community, but certainly by about 1698, we number about 500, population, and the flour mill. It began to grow. And now you can see on the map where Beauport is. This is a division of the land that was taken in 1663, about a decade after the family settles at Beauport. And this is a view of Beauport taken from the island of Orleans, if you can believe it. So this is just an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous place. Let's have a look at the family that they created. We have Thérèse, their firstborn, married Pierre Vallée and would have 10 children, all of whom would make it. She then married Toussaint Giroux and would have one child who would also make it. Noël would marry Félicite Picard, but did not have any children before his early death at 33. Louise married Michel Lecourt and had 5 children, all of whom made it. She then married Pierre Bouchard and had one more child who did make it. Marguerite would marry Pierre-Marie Bazin and have 6 children, 4 of whom would make it. Marie-Élisabeth married René Cloutier and had 8 children, all of whom would make it. Jeanne married Pierre Morel and had 6 children, all of whom would make it. Françoise would marry Jean Prévost and have 9 children, 6 of whom would make it. I also want to introduce you to, they were featured in the 1666 census and the 1667. A little bit clearer to be able to see. By 1667, Léonard and Marie were both 40 years old, and Noël and their children are Noël. It's interesting because that means that Thérèse would already have been married. We don't even see Thérèse in that. She was already married by 1666, so probably around 14 or 15. I know, it's just incredible to our eyes. Then we have Marguerite, we have Marie, Jeanne, and Françoise. They have 3 beasts, which usually is cows, or some sort of ox. And they have 16 enfants à valeur. So that's quite a bit. That's about 14 acres of land. So quite a bit of land in Beauport that they are settling. So Marie would pass away much, much too young, at we believe around 1674, possibly around 47 years of age. We do not have a death record, so we don't know what caused the death. We don't know exactly when it was, but we know that it was around that period. She would be buried most likely in the cemetery of Beauport. She and Léonard would have been married but a mere 24 years, which in those times was actually a very short period of time. It's very unlike, and most of the time it was the man who passed away first. In this example, Léonard was the one left a widow. But for the fact that she was here for such a short time, by 1729, her descendants would number 567 descendants just by 1729. So you can imagine her impact. It's just phenomenal. Léonard would not remarry, and would die in the hospital at Quebec City at the age of 65. So he made it, another less than 20 years without her. Possibly, was responsible for the family and kept getting. He was a master mason, and you can see in the 1681 census, it's kind of sad. Léonard Leblanc Masson, 55, one gun, 9 bêtes à corps, which are 9 goats, and he now has 30 arpents, so that's about 27 acres, 26, 27 acres. Just phenomenal what they were able to do with such a short amount of time together and also on this earth. As always, I want to recommend so many resources. I've recently added WikiTree. I've been using it more and more and more. And I've always used it, but now I'm also getting involved with them a little bit more as a volunteer. Also want to give a shout out to the French-Canadian genealogist, phenomenal work that she's doing. Maple Stars and Stripes continues to be an inspiration for me, Sandra Goodwin, and everything she has done for French-Canadian genealogy, making it really relatable. Love her podcast. Please check that out. And then we have Généalogie Québec, and then we have several associations that can be part of that. If any of you have, additional ones you would like me to feature here on this page and put the links up, please let me know. I'd love to add to this collection. So, you can also see, like in the notes, all of the links so that you can actually peruse that to your heart's content. And so now we end this, story of Marie, who's, my great grandmother, 10 times removed, I think it is. And I'm just amazed by her contribution. I'm amazed by how important her life was to so many people. I suspect that this particular video will be received by many of you, as you are probably the descendants, not just my viewer who requested her, but also a lot of you who are watching today we're all cousins. So I'm amazed by this. Now, that being said, find the Leblanc Association or anything like that, how I usually post, I was not able to. So if any of you have a link or something that I need to post, please let me know. I'd love to include that as well. So until we see you on episode 18, I believe, first of all, I want to thank Marie for her contribution, for her sacrifice, and for her dedication and her absolute importance to us all. And merci beaucoup, grand-maman, as they would say. Until I see you on episode 18, au revoir.